Hi, well, I thought I would do a video. Enough of us what this is all about. This is not about a virus that is some sort of real serious threat to the populations of our country. This is about a power grab. This is about collapsing the economy. And this is about using some virus or whatever it is as a scapegoat for the Ponzi scheme, which is the global economy that we've been living in. Now, I'm not going to make this video about economics because I want to talk about the implications of it now. The economics obviously is a big part of it because, let's face it, by the time even a quarter of the economic fallout of this is felt and experienced, a lot of people are going to be wishing they died from the coronavirus. It's madness. They are collapsing the economy under the guise of safety and security. What amazes me is not necessarily the masses, which still are brainwashed so readily by mainstream media, but even people you'd expect more from, people who for years understand that our governments are not to be trusted, that our mainstream media is not to be trusted. And when they see the mainstream media push this kind of narrative and this hysteria and this fear, that the alarm bells aren't ringing. A lot of people are still without any kind of perspective. I mean, let's face it. What we've just had this Brexit thing, and we've had Nigel Farage and lots of people here in Britain who voted for a Conservative government because they didn't want Jeremy Corbyn in power. Why? Because he'll collapse and he'll bankrupt the country in 18 months. So what do you think's happening now? What do you think is going to, what is happening? These bailouts, 2008, they bailed out the banks. Now they're bailing out everybody, including individuals. This is exactly what Jeremy Corbyn wanted. This is our Conservative government and Boris Johnson, under the name of security and protecting the people and saving lives, is basically implementing socialism in this country. This is a global socialist police state power grab. And it amazes me how the likes of Nigel Farage, and as I say, lots of people up and down this country are falling for this. There's a reason why we didn't vote Jeremy Corbyn, and there's been no outrage about these bailouts and about what the effect of this is going to have and what is really coming down the tracks for this. We've already got the police state here. We'll get to that. That's why I want to do the video. But when you ask people why did they vote Conservative, well, largely it's because we don't want a socialist and a communist in number 10 who would destroy the economy and all the misery and implications of that. But yet we're now doing here, with the support, I haven't heard any, very few anyway, any concerned voices or level heads on this, the likes of Farage and others, where you would expect them to recognize that we're doing exactly what Jeremy Corbyn was planning on doing. And this, in many ways, has just proved him right in a little video he did, Corbyn. And he said this just proves that the government has got more than enough money. They can do it when they... And in one sense, it kind of does prove him right, because the country is just doing unprecedented bailouts, economic suicide. And in one sense, he's right. But in another sense, no, we just haven't seen the reality and the implications of it yet. Didn't want Corbyn getting into power. And as I say, there's good reason for that. And those reasons still stand. Because the economic and social implications of this are likely to be absolutely horrendous, including a total breakdown of social cohesion. I'm not a scaremonger type, but the dominoes have started to fall. You cannot collapse the economy like this. You can't just shut down all sectors of industry like that and expect it to recover. You have jobs to go back to. It's as simple as that. And it's the same in America. Donald Trump, all these apparent capitalists have got this new stimulus going, and they may as well. This is exactly what Bernie Sanders wanted. So a little scary virus, and we've essentially got Jeremy Corbyn in power and Bernie Sanders in power in the United States. Outright socialist programs. They're nationalizing parts of the economy because the government's buying up assets, which we will still have to pay for as a taxpayer. So it's not even socialism. This is communism. This is, look at some facts and figures. And I have spoken to people about this, and I've tried to be calm about it, and I've tried to talk to them about figures like this, and it's just mob mentality. It's like now we know why these zombie movies, coronavirus spreader. That's what it's like. If you try and put some perspective on this, no, you're dangerous. You're an evil, irresponsible piece of shit, and you need to be arrested, like they're doing. They're really abusing these powers already. I'll get to that. But that's what it is. There's this mob mentality, as I say. You're even getting it from people where you expect otherwise, because fear has gripped. Fear and hysteria is dictating everything. You can't think straight when you're in a state of panic and fear. And I'm not a believer in being reckless. I recognize the fear, but it's not from the coronavirus. The coronavirus is going to be, it's going to be used as a scapegoat for one of the biggest economic collapses in human history, with all this human suffering that will accompany it, and for at least attempted and may well be successful global socialist stroke soft communist, at least, power grab. And they will let us go out to have a little walk, maybe, like little dogs. We can eat. They'll allow us to eat and to have little walks in the park. But apart from that, you obey. You obey. We run the show. We run the show, and you obey. That's what's going on. And we can't even gather it. We can't even congregate in public to talk about it. How long are the Americans who have their history and the Constitution is steeped in the love of liberty? Less so here when you look at our history in the European. We're used to being slaves in this country. And the brainwashing over here is just tremendous. As I say, the facts are not going in. This is mass cognitive dissonance. The whole thing is frightening. The people have called for it on the whole. Oh, and the rhetoric's already there to blame China. So we'll probably get a war going with China as well. So I'm going to read out some stats. I wish I was technologically advanced enough to have them come up on the screen, etc. But I'll get to that in the future. I'm going to be spending a lot more time at home, because I basically, my work's dried up. I work in gardening. That's all gone. I love gardening this particular time of year. It's wonderful. I love being around gardens and doing gardening work and being around some of the most beautiful gardens in southwest London. And that's all done. And I know there's a lot of people who are concerned as well about the reality of this and what's really happening. So I'm going to get to some facts and figures. I just took some time. It didn't even take me that long. According to the World Health Organization, 500,000 people die on average from flu every year globally. Okay, what are we up to now with coronavirus? It's 25,000, 27,000. It's a long way off 500,000. 500,000 people die every year. I've been given the stat to so many people. They don't care. They're not interested. In the UK alone, in 2014 to 2015, there were 28,330 deaths from flu in the UK alone. And also, right, okay, let's just stick to the stats for the minute. before we get to the interpretation of facts and that type of thing. 9.1 million people die every year globally from starvation. Just remember, keep the figure in your head at this, because of 28,000 deaths. 9 people die every year of hunger. 1 million people die every year globally from not having clean water. As of today, Saturday the 28th of March, there are 28,000 people dead globally from the coronavirus. And as I say, they have shut down the whole economy, and we're now living in a police state, essentially. 28,000, I think, whatever it is, out of a population of 7.7 billion. Now, out of a population of 330 million there for you guys in the United States, there's 104,000 cases, and I think we've got about 1,800, if it's even that, 1,800 deaths in the United States. The number of deaths in the UK, the big headline today in the BBC, the number of UK deaths rises above 1,000. Whoa! Out of 8,000 cases, out of a population of 68 million. Italy, of course, we've all seen the scenes from Italy. We've all seen those coffins in Italy and the hysteria and the pandemonium going on in Italy. Well, listen, like most level heads, I'm not enjoying watching people doing 28,000 a year. What I'm saying is perspective has been totally lost. Italy has 10,000 deaths out of 93,000 cases. The average age of the Italian patients who have died after testing positive is 78. It is ostensibly the case overwhelmingly. The majority of people dying for this illness are old people with their compromised immune systems, which happens with age. I mean, we can't help getting old. And people who have already suffered from previous cases or previous illnesses or some sort of contribution to an immune system which is weaker than your average person. I've had a cold for 2 weeks. I know loads of people have had a cold for 2 weeks. It could be coronavirus for all I know. They can't test us, or they're not testing us. And I think the reason they're not testing us is because you'd probably see an explosion of actual cases, and then you would see ratio to deaths dropping down immensely. If they can keep the cases, down, and then the deaths look like they're higher to the cases. If we end up with 2 million people being diagnosed with coronavirus, testing positive, we've only got 2,000 people, then maybe, but I wouldn't hold my breath, maybe then people would start to wise up and see some sense. So in Italy, the majority of the people are, let's face it, just really old. Flu kills a lot of people in Italy every year. They have a higher flu rate, mortality in Italy than any other country in Europe, because they've got an aging population, and it doesn't take a lot to kill you when you're 78, 79, 80. Now, here's an interesting fact, and I heard Peter Hitchens talking about this, and I hadn't even thought of it. Shame on me, but that's Peter Hitchens said this. These people in Italy or wherever else are dying who have tested positive for coronavirus. That does not mean that you died of coronavirus. We know this because, for example, you get a lot of people with prostate cancer. There's a lot of people who die with prostate cancer, but don't die of prostate cancer. So in other words, just because you test positive for you die, it doesn't mean that you died of the coronavirus. We have to take the experts' word for this. There's a lot of trust involved here with these experts and their charts, and this is pure technocracy. Personally speaking, I'm big enough and old enough and intelligent enough, I think, to work most of it out myself and decide whether there's a genuine threat and whether I need to be cooped up like a chicken all day. So people have tested positive for COVID-19 and they've died. Now, what we know from this is there's a correlation, but not necessarily causation. This is not a small point. And we are dealing, as I say, with these experts, these doctors and the medical expert, you know, most of them are morons, these people, and most of them are bought and paid for. And if they're not bought and paid for, they're certainly enjoying the limelight. These are celebrity types. Also, if you notice the mainstream media making kind of celebrity types of nurses and all this sort, as if this is like some sort of like plague which is likely to kill 5 million people worldwide. It's not. It's peaked in China. We need some perspective in Italy because of the age group. Germany isn't suffering anything like the death toll that they have in Italy, for example. Or either way, you know, as I say, the big news today in the BBC, the number of UK deaths rises above 1,000. Right, okay. We had 13,000 deaths alone in 2009 from flu. A lot of them, by the way, were children. That particular virus affected children quite badly. So even if we slowed the curve down and managed to spread it out, so we've got 1 month done, and we had 1,000 deaths for the next month, for the next 11 months. We'd still have 1,000 deaths less than in 2013. Not to mention 14 and 15, which I mentioned earlier, we had 28,330 deaths, which means essentially we would need to have 2,000 deaths every month, which is 1,000 more than what we have now, for the next 12 months. Even if we allowed for a spike, which is what all this self-isolating is about, to keep the curve down, even if we just decided, you know what, screw it, let's all go out tomorrow and we had a curve, and it went boom, and we hit, and it took 4 or 5 months, and we just like peaked with it and then came down. 4 or 5 months, you know, are we really going to have 28,000 deaths? I don't know. I don't think so. Not based on what it's looking like. And of course, when they don't, they'll say, and they're already saying it, that's because we've taken the measures we've taken. If we hadn't have done this, would have peaked. Well, so say we had 5,000 deaths for the next 6 months and we just did nothing. And it was 5,000 deaths a month for the next 6 months, and we allowed this bell curve to go. Or it was 3,000 and 6,000. I don't know. You do the math of staggering it. We're still a long way of getting to 28,330 deaths, which is what we had in 2014, 2015. All perspective has been lost. It's madness. So it's not an insignificant point that what we know is that there's a causation, not necessarily, or there's a correlation, not necessarily a causation, because we have to take their word for it. Because if you look at how the media always control the language. If you control the language, you in no small part win the day. And the stories today, the language comes across. It doesn't actually say that the people died of, obviously the strong implication is that, and that's what they want you to think. But the language they use is, if I can just get it, it says that there are now 17,000 cases more or less in the UK. It comes as the government said it was ramping up testing for frontline hospital staff who have symptoms or who live with people who have symptoms, blah, blah, blah. It goes on. And the type of language they use. The jump in deaths is the biggest day-on-day increase in the UK since the outbreak began. The number of deaths is 34% higher than Friday's figure. Yeah, it may be. But it's like, I think if you went from like 2 deaths to 12 deaths in a week, because fear causes a certain chemical. You get it in boxing. I watch a lot of boxing and stuff like that, and you can basically see some opponents are able to get inside the head of another opponent, and it causes him to freeze up. He can't think straight. He can't perform properly. Cortisol, I think, is the hormone fear produces, and it scrambles the mind. It sends it into a fight or flight state. Not good for making clear. And they're counting on it so they can come in and bring in their police state. So the total number of people tested for the virus in the UK was 120,000 as of Saturday. About 6,000 people are tested daily, but the government wants to increase the number to 10,000 a day by the end of March and 25,000 a day by mid-April. Yeah, well, yeah. All that's going to reveal is that the correlation between the percentage of deaths to cases is going to be very small. But, the type of language, as I said, there's a correlation, but not necessarily a causation. And it begs the question, are they fudging the numbers? They're certainly manipulating the narrative, because they can say, 1,000 people have died who've tested positive for coronavirus. But if you think about it, that's not necessarily the same thing as saying 1,000 people have died from coronavirus. As I say, it's like, we know, I could get forbid prostate or whatever, any type of cancer, and I could go out there and get hit by a car, and you could say, Paul Stevenson had prostate cancer and he died on Saturday night. But that's not telling you the full story, is it? It's not a lie to say that I've got prostate cancer and I died. The full information, and they can be doing the same thing. As I say, the people are suddenly trusting the media, even people you would think that should know better, because of fear. Anyway, I have no doubt that this is, they're fudging the figures as well. But it's so obvious that it's a complete media-driven hysteria job. You've got and it's basically it's a power grab by a bunch of Talmudic bankers, usually on steroids, and this is going to be one of the biggest wealth transfers in human history. It's just theft. The same Talmudic clique that own the banks also own the media. One arm it's like a boxer. One arm is keeping you distracted with his jab, with his left hand. That's what the left hand sometimes used for. It's not always used to punch you. It's to keep you off balance. It's to keep you looking before the knockout punch comes. And the knockout punch is going to come unless people wise up. We are going to be living in a total global totalitarian shithole police state unless we get with the program. But it's just the most overhyped meeting, inflated story to distract also economy and bubble, which is going to collapse anyway, with the former being used as a scapegoat for the latter, because the amount of debt, we live in a debt-based society, and the whole thing is coming crashing down. It is just going to implode and collapse under its own corrupt, artificial weight. It's the biggest bubble in history. It's like a black hole. It's just going to suck everything into it, including me and you and your family and everything that we hold dear. So people really need to wise up. As I say, I'm sorry my presentation and videos isn't very good. I'm used to doing radio. Of course, my radio show is on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com on Thursdays, UK time, 5 p.m. Sorry, is it 4 till 5 Eastern Standard Time. I also have a show on revisionmedia.org. I was supposed to be interviewing E. Michael Jones. He's very popular last Thursday, but there were some technical problems. I'm going to be interviewing him on Monday. I'm just going to interview him on my Skype and then upload it to my YouTube channel, and then I'll air it on Thursday. And again, on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. That's Thursday, I don't know, whenever it is, but the 5th or something like that. Next Thursday, 4 till 5 Eastern Time, 9 till 10. Or sorry, it'll actually be, sorry, excuse me, I think it's whatever it is, because the clocks have changed over here. They change tomorrow, so that'll bring us back in sync. So yeah, it'll be 4 till 5 Eastern Standard Time and 9 till 10 UK time. And that's E. Michael Jones, Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And I'll do that interview on Monday. Well, apologies to anybody on my Facebook who was tuning into Revision Media, which is another show I do on Thursday, but we had some technical problems on Thursday and we couldn't do it. So I've rescheduled that for Monday. I'm just going to do that, and then I'll upload it on my YouTube channel. So I'll leave it there for now, but I mean, the whole video was just about to get some perspective. I think I've given enough facts there, but people aren't listening. People are too scared. They can't accept the information. They cannot absorb reality and perspective because they're too terrified, really. All right, folks, stay safe and take care of yourself.